I thought it was smaller, but
Oh no, it always is big on my end.
yeah.
Actual recording is higher quality. Thank you for letting us know, Riverside. Thank you. I
I
love
was
you,
gonna.
Riverside.
I just want you to be proud of me for not making a dick joke. Did I show you my shirt? It says "Touch your shell."
Who made that one?
Hello, lovely. I get a shirt
They're
from them
good.
every month. They have like a little $20 like t-shirt club, and you get
They
like a
are good.
t-shirt,
Yeah.
like one of those water bottle kind of stickers that don't that
They don't
aren't
come
like
off when
papery.
yeah.
Yeah, and a chapstick because I need chapstick. Like,
That's
if you ever
nice.
saw how much chapstick I own, there's chapstick everywhere. I'm never without a chapstick.
Well, I'm never without
He says.
a lip balm, but I'm very particular
You're very
because
particular about everything. I'm not surprised that those were the next words out of your
well,
mouth.
you know what? Because I was having this conversation with Jess in our private chat because she was looking for like really good lip balm, and so I only either use the Jack Black or the CeraVe Healing Ointment because some of the textures are so funny. The way they feel on my lips, I don't like them. But the Jack Black, it's just nice. It doesn't feel like there's something like cakey or like chalky on my lips. It's just
I mean,
nice.
there's some I don't like. Like, I don't like the Burt's Bees ones. I feel like they're
Oh
too
yeah,
waxy.
it's not a good one.
But whatever ones they use for Hello Lovely, I like whoever makes theirs. I think are really nice. They have a good slip to them.
Yeah,
I like a
yeah.
good slip.
There's another one that I like, but I stopped buying it because it's really too expensive. And I was like, I could just buy something cheaper, but it's
Almost
nice.
all of my toiletries at this point, like outside of like toothpaste and facial care, are like somehow bookish related because of Unplugged.
That's so funny.
Like if I need soap, Unplugged.
Yeah.
Lotion, Unplugged.
Wow. That's right, because they do all like this quote unquote self-care stuff.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like I live in a sea of bookish goodies
That's
constantly.
hilarious.
See, like anytime I see something that's about like reading your whole personality, and then I look at my life and I'm
You're
like,
like, yeah, this is accurate.
that's me.
Absolutely accurate.
That's me.
That's you.
That's me.
Shout out your favorite lip balm, ladies and gents. Shout out your favorite lip balm.
I feel like I'm gonna be extra weird this time.
Yeah, because you're kind of loopy and need some sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a rough one. I was telling you, it's like it seems like on my end, it seems like you've been at work for like 1,000 hours straight.
It's because like if we start, like my week starts on a Sunday. Today's Saturday, so if we start on a Sunday, I worked 4 days this week. But if you go for like a week to week, like the way the weeks work,
Yeah.
7 days. If my last day was Friday, I worked 5 of the 7 days. But then if you extrapolate it out further, like I worked pretty much like, when did I work? Like Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Right.
It was a lot. It was a lot. That's a lot.
It is
For
a lot.
people that work 12-hour shifts. That's a lot.
Exactly. Exactly. That's crazy.
There wasn't a lot of downtime.
It just seemed like you were living at work. That's what it felt like and looked like.
I mean, I kind of was.
Yeah.
But I mean, having to help our budget because almost all of it was time and a half. So
that's so nice. That's so nice.
I mean, it will be nice when I get paid. It's just not nice physically at the moment.
Yeah. I feel that. Well, this is our mega recording session day. This is when we put in all the work.
Work, 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 work.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's September now. Today is September 10th. Fall is around the corner. What are we? 2 weeks away from fall?
I mean, it's fall to me.
Is it?
I've already started putting Halloween stuff out.
Oh well, a lot of people have. And
I feel like
for it.
I've been controlled in that I haven't put it all out, and that it's September when I started. So
yeah.
I would have started in August.
I'm loving all of the TikToks for the people
Mhm.
that love fall and love Halloween who are like, I don't care that it's September 1st. I'm decorating now.
When we went to Michael's to get me mental breakdown Halloween decorations, I was like talking to Jesus because like, there's a whole section that's like the dark, spooky, like
Hmm.
creepy Halloween stuff, and then there's like the cutesy, folly kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And we walked by the cutesy, folly stuff, and I was like, "Isn't it funny how I never get cutesy, folly stuff?" I'm always like, "Where's the death
right.
coffin?"
Where's the
Just
blood and guts?
yeah, I want the dark, gothic. You're scared to come in my house. That's what I want. That's what I
uh,
want.
I
I
like
don't
your
want cute, warm and cozy.
I like your Halloween decorating.
And my mom says she has more decorations for me, so I wonder what's in there. Because every time she just has random stuff,
Yeah.
there's it's always interesting to go through the random assortment of junk that she gives me.
Think you'll
Because I've
find some
gotten some.
spooky stuff, some creepy looking stuff?
It's only Halloween decorations, so I don't know what kind of Halloween
Mm.
decorations they are. I wonder if it's more stuff for my Halloween village
Mm.
because those things are
Okay.
expensive. So I would not be mad if there's more Halloween village.
Yes, my good friend in West Virginia, she's got, well, I don't know if she still has it. She probably does. I don't think she'd sell it, but she's got a massive, like, whole Halloween village going on.
They're
It was,
expensive though.
it's
I was
crazy. It took up like a
I
corner of her room.
I love it. I was looking at something to add this year, and it was like wasn't very big. It wasn't like a big house or anything. It was just like a smaller thing, like a
Yeah.
bunch of witches dancing around like a full moon or something like that. And it was like $60 or $70. I mean, it's also at
Nice.
Michael's, so like that's never really $60 or $70. They're usually on some sort of discount, but like still,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
even at like 40% off, that's still a lot of money.
Yes, it is. But it
So
seems really fun to like, hunt for like the next piece to add to your village, and it just keeps expanding. Like I think that's a lot of fun for people that are into that.
it is fun. It is
Yeah.
fun. I usually get small things like for my Christmas and my Halloween villages because
Yeah.
that's the kind of adult I am.
I'm gonna have to text my friend and ask her does she still have hers and see if she can send me some photos and I'll share it with you. But
Oh,
hers
please do.
was massive. And I just thought it was really cool. You know what I mean? Like everything was so, carefully curated, just like to fit
Hmm.
her style and her taste of because she's a horror girl. And I loved it. So
It's so much. I find it fun.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, we're here, folks.
We're here to talk about books.
Yes. Happy Halloween.
I will be back in the country for Halloween, so
That'd be nice. That'd be
yeah.
nice. All right,
Anyway,
what's on our agenda? What's happening? Also,
well,
we both need a nap. But we're going to get through this day.
well, we tend to start with what are you reading or what have you just finished, Naomi?
Bow. Well, so I am heavy into Arc Land right now. I've got a lot of arcs going, a lot. So, one of those is The Sleeping Carporter by Suzette Mayer or
Hmm.
Meyer. I don't really know how to pronounce that.
Mayor?
Mayer. And this is
I'm
from
gonna go
Coach
mayor.
House. Mayor. That's what I'm thinking.
I don't know if that's right, but I
I
just
don't
feel that
either.
one. I
I
feel
don't
that one in
either.
my gut.
And this is from Coach House Books. Thank you, Coach House, for sending me this advanced copy. Uh, People, if you're listening, go to our video and watch because I'm holding up the book. It's gorgeous. So anyway, I'm only just a chapter or two in, and it's 1929, and Baxter, who is this sleeping car porter, he is doing this job in hopes of saving enough money so that he can go to dental school. And the book opens with him, on a ride or on a route. It's like a couple of days, and this job. seems awful. Sucks to be him. The people are terrible. They are rude. They are disgusting, and I feel for Baxter. And I'm rooting for him to get all of this money so that he can get his behind into dental school, because this job is horrific. I
Why does
it's
it
like
sound like you're describing nursing? It
like
sounds like
poor,
bedside nursing.
poor Baxter. So again, I'm just again a couple chapters in, so I haven't gotten that far. But the way that they're describing his, day-to-day duties on this particular route, it's like I would not want to do that. But he has a lot of patience, it seems like, and he really has his goal set. He wants to get into dental school, and that's the focus, and that's what he is leaning on, and he's able to push all those other things aside to just focus on the main goal. But also, too, one of the frustrating things about this job is they have this demerit system. So, like, when these runs are over, they find out if they have any demerits. And I think, what is it? If you get up to 50 or 100, like, you're fired. But, like, you don't know, like, as you're getting a demerit, you just kind of find out what your total of demerits are when the route's over. So, you, a run could be over and you could have hit the max, and then, like, you're out of a job. So I think that's pretty stressful. You
That's
think you're
very
doing all the
stressful.
right things on a run. You thought you were doing everything, per protocol, and then you get to the end and you find out, oh, now you have 50 demerits. So that seems a little shady. So we'll have to see how that plays out in this book as well. But so far it's good. I'm enjoying it, and I'm already rooting for Baxter. And this is The Sleeping Car Porter by Suzette Mayer, and I think this comes out October 4th from Coach House Books. Oh,
Well,
they're in Canada, by the way.
Canada.
Toronto. Yeah. Thank you, Coach House Books.
All right. Where do I want to go? I have a little stack here for you. Since we were talking about Halloween, I'll steal this out of my little Halloween book thing. I'm trying to protect my books so Mercy doesn't eat them. But then she just thinks these are toys and throws these around with the books in them, and you just hear. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I am currently reading Betty by Tiffany McDaniel, which Naomi is experiencing the journey a little bit.
Indeed, I am.
I am vlogging this, so there will be a vlog to go along with this for anybody who likes a reading vlog. But one of my very good friends, well, we picked this up together from McKay's when I saw you.
Yes, I remember. Mm-hmm.
And I had this on my radar because of Books with Brittany. We had read it and said it was good, and I'd seen it on Book of the Month and stuff, and I was like, it kind of sounded interesting, so we found it, picked it up, and then a couple weeks ago, my friend Matt texted me and was like, "So I'm reading this book, Betty," and I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "This book is crazy. You have to read this." I said, "Okay." And then he finishes it. And he says, "So I almost cried at multiple occasions. This book is just traumatic. You have to read this book." So I started it, and it is. I'm keeping a cry count on Instagram. I'm at 3 now, and I don't mean like ugly crying.
Right, like real deal. Bawling eyeballs out, crying.
Like, we are flirting with the emotional roller coaster of a Little Life.
Oh.
Okay. But not quite there. Like, we're not quite there. Like, that is its own stratosphere of just sad lit.
Yeah.
This is a little different. But I mean, so basically, you're following Betty. Betty is the youngest daughter. She's not the youngest child, but she's the youngest daughter in this family. In the 60s, and the mom and the dad. So the mom has a lot of mental health issues, and you find out why she has mental health issues. Mm-hmm. The dad is a Native American, and he suffers a lot of racism as a result. Mm-hmm. And Betty is the darkest colored of all of her siblings. There's 6 of them. So she gets a lot of the racism too, because she actually looks like she's not white. Whereas her other sisters and everybody else just kind of look like everybody else in their little Ohio town. And you sort of just follow the story of their lives and through Betty's experience. And it is a hell of a life. Like, I don't want to say too much here to spoil it. I'll spoil it in the vlog if you really want to know the spoilers. But like, it is just like one trauma after another, like for different characters. Like
Right.
this Sit family, it is so sad. And like the dad in this book is the most wonderful human being you have and I just know something terrible is going to happen to him.
Oh no.
But he is just, because something has to be bad, because he's too perfect for something. And the amount of trauma, do you know what I mean? Like, you just know,
Yeah.
like I am here, like I'm on chapter 29, like you just know. But he is so wonderful. The way that he like loves his children, the way that he loves his wife, who is just so broken, and
Mm.
like the way he tries to instill all of the cultural and like the cultural heritage of
Yeah.
being a Native American into his children, specifically with Betty, since Betty is our narrator. And like the pride he has and the stories he tells and just, it's, oh my god, the amount of times he's made, oh, Naomi, I need you to read this book. This is not the best review
No, it's a
because
fine review.
I
And I've
can't
heard a lot about this book. It
I
was
can't process everything that's happened. Like, I need therapy after this.
Well, when this book first came out, there was a lot of buzz about this book, and people were really in their feelings, and they were really in great appreciation of this story.
And the
So,
book is really, 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 really well written. Like,
hmm
and it is so engaging, and like, the only reason why I haven't sat down and read this in like one go, well, there's two. One, because of how much work I've done this week, because I started it this week, and two, because I've had to take actual physical, like, mental breaks, because
yeah,
if I kept going, I don't think I'd be okay,
hmm
because the struggles that all of these characters have and the things, it's just, I mean, all the trigger warnings. There's so many trigger warnings, I can't even. But there's just moments where, well, there's like one moment where one of the brothers is kind of playing, for lack of correct terms, because this is what they would have called it, cowboys and Indians, right? And
hmm
he's being the cowboy to his siblings. And you're reading that and you're like, how freaking weird is that? Like, that is such a
yeah,
weird moment to and like as a little boy, you probably aren't even thinking anything about that. But just
hmm
like how then there's lots of things like that. There's like these completely sort of like, they're not casual, but like you're casually going through a moments in time, and there's all these like really deep, heavy hitting things that are occurring
yeah,
in a moment where like someone's getting their period, or someone's whatever, losing their virginity, or what have you. Um yeah, and there's moments that just feel really like eerily similar to things that like maybe I've experienced in my life, and not in like a completely like the same way, but like, so
hmm
the mom has this really bad dad, and the bad dad dies, and one of the things the bad dad would do to the kids is they weren't allowed like into the house,
hmm
like, and he was really nasty. And I would just remember my grandfather was like, if he was ever alone, he really didn't want us to go into the house and like screw up the house. But if my
mm.
grandma was there, we could do anything we wanted. We were running around, we were kids, but like, you just like really couldn't be kids. It was like, well, it was you know, like when you read a book and it unlocks random memories,
Yes, yes,
and they might not like fall exactly in line with the
hmm
story, but you're
but
like,
there's a
that just unlocked
similarity
a
there.
memory.
Yeah,
Yeah, like, and like when he does pass, they finally go into the house, and like everyone's walking around like they feel like they're gonna get yelled at any moment, like that, like grandpa's gonna show
right.
up. And I remember when my grandpa passed and we were cleaning out his house, and I was constantly on edge, thinking I was gonna get screamed at for like being
Yeah.
somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. And like, so like that, this, it's so good. I think this might be one of my best favorite books of the year. Like, I haven't finished it yet, but it's going to be a strong contender.
Wow. I'm not
It's
surprised, just based off of all the things I heard about it since it came out. I'm not surprised at all.
it's so good. So you have to get it next. Yes.
Well, maybe I'll stumble across a copy at McKay or the thrift store, which I think I'm going to go in a couple of weeks. So, fingers
Okay.
crossed.
But I mean, if you don't like traumatic stories, don't read it.
She's talking to you people, not me.
No. I want to know if you cry.
I know.
We all know that, like, I will cry at anything, but the fact that Matt said he was, like, on the edge of tears multiple times, just, I knew I was done for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think you might.
It might get me.
It might get you. It might get you.
I'm here. I'm ready to be got. I'm ready to be got by a fantastic book. Oh,
I like this book sleeve, and I wish I could remember who made it, but I really like this book sleeve. It's got a little pocket in the front.
Yeah. Ooh.
It's been so long since I ordered it. I don't remember who made it. And, like, if you make book sleeves, folks, make sure you put your name on it somewhere so that
would be helpful, actually, if you put it on the sleeve.
In, like, many years when I forget and I want to buy another one, I can remember where to go. But
yeah.
I want more spooky. I want more spooky. It's just my vibes.
Yeah, yeah. I love it.
What are we here for?
Oh, we're going to recap what we read for a Woman in Translation month.
Yes, we are.
And what a month it was.
It was wonderful.
It was. I think I read more books for a Woman in Translation last year than this year. But this year, there's just a particular set of books that I read that just delighted me on every level, and I just could not be happier.
I had, like, a mixed bag. I'm going to be very honest with you. I found, like, the very beginning of Women in Translation, I feel like the first few books I picked up were bangers, and then it sort of petered out. And there's only, like, one that was truly disappointing. No, two. But then everything else was really just kind of, it was either stellar or fine. And then a couple just, I wasn't a big fan of.
Yeah, and I guess I did have I don't want to say a DNF. There's just one I didn't finish. But not because I'll get back to it at some point. But,
all right.
Yeah. So I only
how many do you have?
I only have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 14 because I had two that I don't have physically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you take us start off with us and maybe do, like, your first 3?
Sure. I have a small pile of 3 right here. So I finally read Self-Portrait in Green by Marie Nide. Can you say that?
Oh, I don't know.
She's French, and this was interesting. So this is kind of a literary memoir about like a small sliver of her life. And the thing that ties together all the stories is that there's always some woman in green in the stories. And the writing was very interesting. Ultimately, I'm going to be honest, it's a little bit forgettable for me. And it might be just because I'm brain dead at this point. But I did enjoy it while I was reading it. I would read more stuff from this author.
Okay.
Like, it got me intrigued to read more from her. But ultimately, like, after everything else I read, it wasn't like a standout. Does that make sense?
Is she mostly a fiction writer? Or not?
Well, this is fiction, I believe, but this is a literary memoir.
Okay.
So, you know, like, when it's not just a memoir, it's like a stylized memoir.
Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly say we read Elena Knows because that was on the top of our list, and we're going to be doing a live actually tomorrow about it. And I'll say this now, I'll say this tomorrow in the live. I think the thing that surprised me about this that I didn't realize was going to be a part of it was how much.
I don't want to say anything. Wait, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I think I was just surprised about how many other topics were wrapped into this, and it wasn't just about a mother trying to figure out
Yes.
the death of her daughter. Is that okay? Can I say it
Yes.
like that?
Yes.
Okay. All
Yes.
right.
Because
I don't want
I don't want to get into. I'm dying to talk about that book. That's why I'm like, I'm
I
dying.
told you,
I'm
I told you this
dying.
was so I read this
Oh
in
my
one
gosh.
sitting, like physically, because the only audiobook is in Spanish, and
Mm-hmm.
all my Spanish is like "Donde está Baño?"
Yeah.
And, like and they was like, "Oh, it has to be good if you read this in one sitting physically." I was like, "Oh hell yeah!"
I.
It's so good. It's okay. We're
Yeah.
gonna talk about it in a live. You'll get all of our thoughts, but pre thoughts, it's so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I'll just do, I guess, one of my my ebooks for you. I did finish The Employees by Olga
Oh yes.
Rov. She's Polish, I believe. Is she Polish? I could be wrong. She might be Danish. I don't know. Can't remember. But this was a sci-fi that was on the short list for the Ursula K. Le Guin, which is a new book prize, and it is a very weird little novella
Mm-hmm.
about work and humanity, and so you have this ship in space. I've talked about it here before. If you haven't heard this, it's this ship in space, and you have humans and humanoids.
Mm.
So almost human-like robots, and the entire story is told in like statements, almost like
Yeah.
witness statements. And there's a twist at the end that's kind of good, and you kind of don't know what's going on for most of it because you're just trying to piece together all the information like a little detective through all these statements.
Mm-hmm.
And they go back and forth between like the humans and the humanoids with their statements mixed in together. You see the tension between the two groups.
Mm.
Something's going on the ship. There's these weird, like, rock things they picked up at some point. And it's just, I have to say, it was really clever and really interesting. And,
Yeah.
and I'm surprised at how much I liked it, given how weird it is. So it was good. I enjoyed this. This was a good one.
Interesting.
And now it's irritating me that I can't remember where she's from, and my phone has
That's okay.
fallen into the abyss of my desk.
Wow.
Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm literally looking at it to see that I read this. All right, I'm done. Goodbye, Naomi. It's all you.
Oh man, I want to start with this book that I listened to. I wish I had a physical copy. Um, I'm gonna get one. I think I'm just gonna get all of the books that she has out. But it's the book is called Mona by, I don't know how to say her name.
God
Paula.
damn it. She was Danish. Sorry.
You had it. Mona by Paula or Pola. I think it's Paula. I don't know how to say her last name. All this will be in the show notes. And I
It's going to be Paola.
Paula, I think so. And I have to put in there what it's translated from as well because I don't see that right now. But this was it was a very short novella, and it was really interesting because so she's just this successful writer, woman of color, and she's somewhat of a novelty at this university that she works at.
Mm-hmm.
And from her experience, it doesn't feel too great being this novelty of this, very successful, accomplished, writer of color. And, she's very much into, sex and drugs and her cigarettes and whatnot. She's just very much into her sexuality. There's a lot of sexual encounters throughout this book. I mean, she's really exploring that aspect of herself. But she also is on this little trip with other writers. And weird things are happening there. I mean, it's very academic in its nature in this particular setting with all these other writers. And there is something that happens at the end of the book that just shocked me so greatly. Like, you ever have a moment where you put down the book because you actually can't believe what you just read?
Mm-hmm.
It was just so out of nowhere.
I did that this morning with Betty.
I mean, just like so out of nowhere. And it actually made me want to read the book all over again, which I will once I get a physical copy. But the reason why I want to revisit it is because I feel like there's a lot that can be missing. I feel like I did miss a lot through her trajectory of this career, and then being in this other setting with all these other writers, and then trying to like kind of piecemeal some of the sexual violence that was discussed in this book, trying to figure out like what that's about.
Hmm.
And I feel like I'm missing some pieces there. So it was fantastic. That ending threw me for a loop and really stunned me. And I want to read it again. And I
That's
recommend it. I really
we
recommend it
like
because
that.
it really it's gonna get you thinking. And like even weeks later I'm like, oh, what was really going on there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what was really going on there? So I don't know about you all, but sometimes I like to be shaken up and confused by a piece of work where it still has me questioning what's going on or what happened with a character like weeks later.
I want to
So
feel
much so
something.
that you want to go back and read it again to see if you can get some more clarity as to what was going on in the story. So
Yeah.
that was Mona. I apologize, I cannot pronounce her name, but everything will be in the show notes for this episode.
One day we will be good at pronouncing names. If it want to make you, if you want to feel better, there's no way for me to say this last name with, I just, I don't know how.
Yeah.
But Magma by Thora, something Icelandic that I can't say.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very short uh, novella. It's blurbed by Lily King. You knew I was going to love this. And this was phenomenal. Like, this is what an early read from
Mm.
the month. Absolutely phenomenal. You have Lee, Leela, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say it correctly because I stink. And she gets into this relationship with this man, and it is just absolutely emotionally abusive. It is so painful to watch her kind of spiral and go through this relationship. And you can tell that the author is like a poet first and then a
Mm.
like a prose writer second, just
Yes.
on how beautiful a lot of the writing is. And it's super quick. I mean, it's like some of it's just like a couple lines on a page, so
Mm.
you go through it really quickly. But there's a just, you watch her go from being excited in this relationship to just being sort of destroyed by it.
Mm.
It touches a lot on what it's like to be in an emotionally abusive relationship, which is something I don't think people explore enough,
Yeah.
because it does happen and it can be kind of silent. And one of the things that they talk about in here is one of the reasons why it is kind of silent is that, like, you don't reach out to your friends because you don't want them to know, and you also
Mm-hmm.
you if you do, you often get pushback because why are you sharing stuff with other people? This is our relationship. So it's a very like tricky thing to be in. And it can take a while to realize that you're in it. Um, yeah, it's really beautiful. It's a wild ride, and read it. It's a one sitting read. Um, yeah,
Mm.
so good, so good.
Wow. All right. My next two are going to go hand in hand because of you. Alyssa read The Vegetarian last year, and she read Tender Is the Flesh this year. I was saving the vegetarian to read for this year, and she told me, she said, I think you should read those two together. So I got Tenders the Flesh from the library. I already had the vegetarian, and I read Tenders the Flesh first, and then I read the vegetarian right after. And this was a hell of a book pairing.
I just like the whole time I was reading this, I was like, what if you read this and then The Vegetarian? What would that experience be? And I could never do it. So you had to do the experiment for
It
me.
was a hell of a book pairing. I'm gonna just suggest this to everyone who hasn't read those two.
Mhm.
Read them in that order.
Mhm.
So Tender and is the Flesh. This is kind of, wouldn't you say it's kind of dystopian in a way?
It's like dystopian horror. It's a
Yeah,
horror novel. Yeah.
because there's some, whatever quote unquote disease that broke out, and now we're like, instead of eating animals, we're eating people. We're eating people, and
But we're not just eating people. We're breeding
we're
people to
breeding
be
people
eaten.
to be eaten. Correct. And this book is very visual,
Mm-hmm.
and extremely visceral in its nature and the way it's written. And it also shows all of the various opinions, thoughts, and emotions that other people have about what we're doing in this new society of breeding and feeding on people. There are people that are
Mm-hmm.
absolutely for it. There are people that are profiting from it. There are people that are going insane at the fact that we're actually doing this. There was this one line in there, something about, oh, we need to do something with this because this designer wants to do a new line in black. So they wanted to like breed more. Did you catch that
Yeah, yeah,
part?
yeah, yeah, yeah. There were a lot of like weird
It
racial
was
things.
just like it's kind
And
of
like hunting
bananas.
down albinos, or
Yeah,
like
it's
there
a
were, and
real
the
trip.
hunting, the whole the whole hunt thing, like of hunting humans, and like if you're severely in debt,
Yeah,
you can get out of debt by becoming a hunted human, and if you survive, you are free, but if you're not, obviously you're being like, there's so much crazy stuff. And the ending,
yeah,
like, because I was sort of rooting for our main character
hmm,
to not end like that,
yeah,
and he ended like that. But there's
yeah,
also like mixed into all of this is not just a lot of discussion on humanity and how just absolutely terrible we are, but there's also a large portion of this that's about grief,
yeah. I would
which
agree.
is, you know, it's
It's really, it is a fantastic book. Now I need to hunt down a copy for
don't get a
myself.
steak and then read this because you will throw up.
Yeah, maybe if you are a meat eater, maybe don't eat meat before you read it, and you probably won't want to eat meat for a little while afterwards.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So it was fantastic. Now I've got to hunt down my own copy to add to my
Mhm.
shelves. And then the vegetarian was really frustrating for me and suffocating and just a lot of weird things. I mean, this woman who's married to an awful human, um,
Mhm.
she has a dream and she decides she's going to stop eating meat. And this idea, this thought is so wild for other people to wrap their heads around. It's like they want to force her to eat
Mhm.
meat. And she is adamant about the fact that she is not ever going to put another piece of meat in her mouth ever again. And the lengths that these people go through, her husband, the sister, the mother, the father, the lengths that they go through to try to get her to eat meat is
Mhm.
insane. Absolutely insane.
And she has like an absolute mental breakdown.
Absolute.
And the thing with her brother-in-law,
That was freaking weird. And
this is
also,
like weird
his little
and
obsession was
juicy
weird
and
too, right?
psychological. Yeah.
What don't you think so? His little obsession with her was a bit strange. It was a little
Mhm.
off in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
So I was really side eyeing him as well. Like, what, buddy? What's going on with you up
It
there?
is. It is
It
one
was a,
hell of a book.
yeah. It was really a trip. So if you've
Mhm.
never read Tenders of Flesh and The Vegetarian, read them together. Read Tenders of Flesh first, and then read The Vegetarian. It is quite the experience.
Mhm.
Highly recommend both of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, that's Tenders of Flesh by Augustina. I don't know how to say the last name. And this is translated from
She's
what?
Argentine. She's from Argentina.
Okay. And then The Vegetarian by Han Kang, and that's translated from the Korean.
Yeah. So I have Tove did Livson, almost said it, almost childhood youth dependency. This is translated from the Danish, I believe. Or is she
Yes.
Finnish? She's
Danish.
Danish, right?
Hmm.
Um, oh, getting my Scandinavian people all mixed up. So this is like a classic, like a modern classic, and I want to read more of her works.
Hmm.
This was not like, I didn't dislike it, but this was not like it for me. I wasn't like, oh my god, this is
Like
the
over
most
the
amazing.
moon. You were over the
Yeah,
moon.
but it was good, and it got better as I went through. So you follow. This is like a semi fictionalized, not really memoir,
Hmm.
and not really fictionalized memoir about her life. And so it starts when she's very young, and they have a very hard life. You're kind of in a like World War II Nazi Germany beginning, and then
Mhm.
you go through and you follow until, she's an adult afterwards. And so there's all kinds of like weird political things and global things that are going on around her. Um, Socioeconomic things within Denmark at the time, but she's really young. And this is one of the things that I was frustrating for me reading it, because she's really young in the first 2/3 of this book.
Mhm.
And so there's so much going on. And I want to know more about all the things that she's living within, but you're limited by the perspective of her being like an 8-year-old child, a 14-year-old girl, all these things. So I get why it's written in that perspective,
Yeah.
but I'm frustrated that it's written in that perspective because I want a more mature look at those things.
I
And then
understand what
by
you're
the time
saying.
you get to dependency, she's an adult, and I get that. So I feel like I will like her other writing where she's
Mhm.
hopefully not writing like a child. But there are some weird things in here, like some of the poems that she's writing and the themes and topics she's writing about as a young person are like oddly mature and seem very strange to have written. And I wonder how true those are to her
Mm.
actual life. Like,
Mhm.
did she really write that maturely at 8? Given her how like prolific she is in Denmark, I mean, she may have.
Right.
Um, but she also struggles with a dependency to painkillers um, later in life, and it's crazy to see how she got painkillers, the enabling of her husband to give her painkillers. Like, it is the third I think the final third is my favorite part, and it's the most interesting part. But I mean,
Okay.
she's got like this is quite a life. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of juice to it, this little juice
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. But the right
Interesting.
So I'm not mad. I want to try other works of hers,
Yeah. I
but
still want to read that one.
I don't know if this was like I don't think this is going to be a fave. I
Right.
guess
Now
what I'm
she
gonna
has a
say.
new book out, right?
I don't know.
I think she has a new one out.
She might. Um, I'm constantly seeing things from older writers coming out, and they're like not actually new; they're just reprintings. But
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
Huh. Okay.
So maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's still on my list. I still want to read it. Yeah. Yeah. Do
All right.
another, because I
Do
only
another.
I
Do
only
another.
have 5 completed ones left, and then the one that I didn't finish.
All right. I have six left, and one more, 7. So I guess I'll do another one that I read. I don't have a physical copy for, and that is The Hole, which I've done a review on. The Hole by Hee Young Pyun, Pyun. I probably said that incorrectly. Um, I believe the author's Korean. Yes, the author's Korean. So this is like a really, really super short psychological thriller where you start and our main character is waking up from a coma because he's gotten in a car accident, and now he's paraplegic and his wife is dead. And
Yikes.
the story, he has nobody left. His parents are dead. The only person he has is his mother-in-law to take care of him, and it's like it's got a little bit of misery in it, and it is, you know, where it's going the entire time. The mother-in-law is just slowly descending into madness while taking care of him
Oh
and
boy.
isolating him more and more and more. He is desperately trying to protect himself, but he really can't because he can't do anything. And it's just one hell of a ride. But there's a lot of other things going on. So you go from like the present where all of that's happening to reflecting back to the past. So there's a lot of commentary on like Japanese and Korean relations.
Hmm.
There's a lot of commentary on fidelity within a marriage. There's a lot of things about like grief. There's a lot in this little thing,
Yeah.
all framed within this just lovely little horror story.
I This sounds very familiar to me. I think that I've read about this book on a
Mm.
few blogs that recommend translated books.
It was really good.
Yeah. That sounds good. And
And it's
yeah.
short. Like, I feel like it's only like a 4-hour audiobook. So like you can clean the kitchen and like
Yeah, like give me a mean old mother-in-law any day. Hello.
oh oh
You know what
the
I mean?
mother-in-law. The mother-in-law. It's just such a good premise because you're so helpless.
Wow. Okay. I'm here
And she's
for it.
got to like do everything for him.
Right.
So she's like changing, giving everything. Like
She's doing all the
everything.
things.
Everything.
Wow.
So now I have 6. What do you want to do?
So my last 4 are together because it's a series.
You want me to do some more?
Yeah.
I'll quickly do the phone booth at the edge of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Another story about grief. This is after a tsunami in Japan. A mother loses her daughter and her mom, and she's just riddled with grief. And she hears the story about this phone booth that's like on this cliff in one of the heavier hit parts of the tsunami, where people go and they call it the wind phone. And I think the wind phone actually exists. And they like it's where people go to like talk to the people they've lost, and the wind carry. It's a very lovely story.
Yeah.
And I was expecting this really, really beautiful, poignant, lovely story. And there was something about it that was more juvenile than I wanted it to be.
What and the way it was written, or
Yeah,
the
like
actual characters and things,
like the way
or
it was written. I don't know. There was something. I guess I was just expecting something a bit more sophisticated in terms of its writing, and it just wasn't there. So, like in general, like it's a fine story, but it was not the one that I wanted.
Got it.
So, not a fan.
Got it. Okay.
I think perhaps I'm going to say the disconnect might be that it's a Japanese story written by an Italian author who has spent a lot of time in Japan, and that maybe I was expecting more like a lot of the Japanese writers that I've read.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
So anyway, you want me to do more?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay. More ones I didn't really like. So then I had the Memory of Water, which is by Emmy something. She's Finnish. And this started out really good. Like I was solidly into this. So basically like there's no more fresh water. Only like the tea mass, like you get certain amounts of fresh water. It's like really doled out. Most of the water's not fresh. It's like weird recycled kind of gross water. Water's a really like precious thing in this like sci-fi futuristic world. But there's like tea masters. This might be another thing that's like weirdly blended with some sort of like Japanese, Chinese, Asian culture that is kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
But so there's tea masters in this, and traditionally they're all men, but she's a woman. She becomes tea master. Her dad's a tea master. He has the secret spring of water, and that is like something they have to guard, and eventually people find out they have it. So there's a lot of tension. It's going to be a really bad review because this book at some point just falls off. So they're guarding this secret. She has this friend that I just don't freaking trust, and you shouldn't the entire time you're reading it. There's all these guards who like will rat you out. People are constantly coming and checking because they're like, oh, how do you always have so much fresh water? For your tea ceremonies or whatever. And I think they get allotted a little more because they're tea, but like they seem to be having a little bit more than a little bit more.
Yeah.
They also have some undisclosed amount of future time. So there's a lot of references to trying to describe technology that we would be familiar with as somebody who would not be familiar with it, which is always an interesting thing to try to do successfully. But they like find cassette tapes essentially, and then they find CD-ROMs eventually, and figure out a way to like play them, and they start getting these messages about people like archaeologists or somebody like somebody trying to figure out what happened to the world essentially, and like why we're in this place. And it sounds like it's some like political thriller where like the government's doing something to you and
Yeah.
there's some big mystery, but really by that point you're just, the book has lost you
Oh boy,
and
that's a
you don't care.
shame.
Like there's so many things in here that like it could be really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just no, it like really
Mm.
just, it takes like a nosedive about halfway through, and then I can't, and then some
Wow.
bad things happen to your character, and I no longer care anymore, and it's just a shame because the beginning part of it was really good and well written and interesting, and it really just, and a lot of other reviews said the same thing. I thought maybe I just missed something, but
It took a turn for a
no,
lot of people.
it took a turn. It took a turn.
Wow.
Um, more.
I'll do one, and then you could do some more.
Okay.
Okay. This is "Sin is a Puppy That Follows You Home," by Bella Raba Ramat Yakuba, and this is translated from the Hassa by Aliyu Kamal. It is a short book, only 126 pages, and it
Mhm.
describes itself as an Islamic soap opera, complete with polygamous households, virtuous women, scheming harlots, and black magic. And that is absolutely what this is. I read this in one sitting. I had the best time. We open with this married woman who has a few kids and a husband who seems to be doing very well. He has his own little vendor selling these beautiful fabrics, and he's pretty well off. The problem is he actually isn't really supporting his family. He gives her basically pennies to do for their household. So she has a little side hustle where she makes meals for people to buy. And that is how she clothes their children, sends their children to school, buys all the school supplies and all the books. Meanwhile, he's slinging his little community penis all over the place because he is just an awful, unfaithful man.
Community penis.
He's just slinging it around everywhere, and so and he's rather mean and cruel to his wife, and so he meets this woman that he is absolutely enamored with. But little does he know, she has a past history of being somewhat of a whore. And she has
A
gone to see
hooah.
a whore. And she has gone to see this black magic lady that basically, I don't know, it's like whatever this black magic woman did, he can only see the good in her, and he won't believe any of the things that he has heard about her. So she has got him wrapped around his finger. He goes home and tells his wife that he's going to bring in another wife. And the wife is like, "What are you talking about?" And everything explodes from there.
And the book's only like 40 pages.
When I tell y'all this was like so juicy and so good, I had so much fun reading it. It was the best. 126 pages of just juicy Islamic soap opera goodness. Highly recommended. "Sin is a Puppy That Follows You Home" by Belaraba Ramat Yakuba, translated from the Hassa by Aliyu Kamal.
Yeah, that I remember when you told me that at first. When you were first reading it, it just sounded really good.
So fun.
Okay. Um, so the next one I have here is Violets by Kyung Suk Shin, which is Korean. This is a very quiet novel that talks about some rather heavy things. You have our main character who so you start like in this past scene where she's like with some girl and she has feelings for this young girl, like they're little girls, and it's weird, and like, the other little girl's like, ew, no, like what are you
Hmm.
doing? And like kind of like shuns her. And then
Okay.
you move to the present, and Sun is sort of estranged from her mom, um, and she's in Seoul, and this is in the 90s, and she goes to this um, florist shop, and she gets a job there, and there's this another girl there who also sells flowers. And it's like, so Sun's kind of like this person who's trying almost not to exist. Like she's trying to just almost be forgettable. And she's a little weird, and so she doesn't really put herself out there. And then the other girl at the shop is like the polar opposite of it. So she like
Mm-hmm.
gets her to go out and do things and experience life. Uh, and doing all these things, you get to see just how like patriarchal society is within, especially 90s uh, Korea. Um, there is some essay that happens and some, so there's a really traumatic thing that happens, and it happens really late in the book. And I think that's the thing that made me like this book, because I'm not used to having something that traumatic
Mm.
that late in the story.
Mm.
Um, but you can tell that our character is just like kind of off and broken. And it's kind of the way the world has made her. But she's trying really hard to be normal,
Mm.
almost in like a convenience store woman, except for in a convenience store woman, she's very accepting of
Right.
how different she is. It's like if you didn't accept that,
Yeah.
uh, but it's a really sad story. It's a very quiet story. It's a very slow story, but
Mm.
I did enjoy it. And I know it's not the one that you are thinking of when you think
Right.
the Violets. And this is all over like one summer. So it's a very short period of
Okay.
time. And yeah, it's very interesting. I enjoyed it. And this is older. I didn't realize how old this is. And it's just recently been printed in
Yeah.
English, I guess.
It
Yeah.
seems to be hitting for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's like it's sneaky in a way. You know, you're reading it and you're enjoying the story, and then it's right at the end. This is like one of the earlier things she wrote. It's like really near the end of the story that you have this really big moment. And I think, for at least for me, and if anybody else has read this, tell me if this is the way it was for you, but when I got there, that's what solidified my feelings on the book overall. It was like, okay, yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
it's, yeah. So
Yeah.
this is a woman of a story unable to find a place to fit in the world, suddenly swept up into a warped desire for love that eventually breaks her. It is the story of a woman punished by violent men in a cruel city because she is unable to express her confused desire for love and connection, who then disappears into the dark.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it is phenomenal. And I actually wish they had written that on the back of the book, because I think they would have sold it better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Wow. Okay. Mm.
I
I
have
don't.
three more.
Okay. I'm just going to mention the book that we both have, that we both started to read. Did you finish Lady Joker?
Oh no, I haven't started. I haven't finished that. I haven't even looked at it.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Lady Joker Volume 1, and I took the cover off. And this is by, do I know how to pronounce his name? Karu Takamura,
Sure.
translated from the Japanese by Marie Lita and Allison Markin Powell. Um, I don't even know what to say about this book. I, I
I feel like
started.
we need to keep going. I
I
don't
do
think I
want to keep
have enough
going.
information.
We don't, but I will say this: when I started off reading it, I was enjoying it. And I think this is another one of those books where I can't take breaks, because I think that it may go in and out of keeping you really interested. And when a book's like that, taking a break isn't good. So I think I just need to
Yeah.
like keep going and let the book connect more for me, so that I get a little bit more into it.
I need to listen and read along, and I'm in the middle of too many other things that I'm
Yeah.
listening to and reading along. Maybe like when I'm done with Betty, I'll pick it back up, because
Yeah.
obviously I'm like heavily marking up Betty.
Well,
Um,
I only got up to chapter 5, so I've read 130 pages.
I think I'm a
And
little further, but not much.
yeah, and
Like I'm about there.
I'll see. I mean, this is a detective novel, by the way, folks. I'll see if I can
What?
just pick it right up, or if I need to start over.
what I can't figure out is, what are we detecting? Is it about the company? Is it about the son who's dying? Like, I think that's
I
the
don't know.
thing that's throwing me off, is that within a, well, okay, so you'd think like 100 and something pages is a lot, but this is a 2-volume
Right,
story and they're pretty
exactly.
chunky. So like,
Right. This is a total of 576 pages.
I think we're going to talk about like altogether almost 1,000-page story. So like,
Mm-hmm.
is 100 pages? That's only 10% of the book,
Right.
pushing 20. Like that's.
Right.
But I feel like I should, if there's a dead person, shouldn't that be the person we're concerned about? But I don't know if that's the person we're.
I don't know anything. That's what I'm saying. I don't know anything. And
Because I thought it was about an unsolved case.
mm-hmm.
But like, how is that unsolved? Dude, like, I don't know. It's not
Yeah.
making sense right now
Right.
in my little head.
And unfortunately, I think it's because we're just going to have to keep reading. And
Yeah.
that's why I said we're going to have to just let the book connect all the things for us as we just settle into the story.
Yeah.
That's what I think we're going to have to do. So this is one that I did not finish, but plan to, Lady Joker.
I'll get there eventually. I
Yeah.
think next month the second volume is released in the States.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 still, right? So this is the copy that Mercy ate.
Oh, mercy.
This is Freshwater for Flowers by Valerie Perrin. Also translated from the French. It's a pretty, like, I think it's probably one of her more well-known books. It seems to be quite beloved in some way. And it was really good. I just don't know. I don't know. It didn't connect the way I wanted it to. Like, I didn't have the same. I didn't feel like all the love that I think like my mom did. Because this is one of the ones my mom was like, "Have you read it yet? Have you read it yet? Have you read it yet?" Like, I
Yeah.
wouldn't. It's not the kind of book that I would be like, "Naomi, did you read it yet?" Like,
Right.
but it is very interesting. So you have this woman who is she takes care of a graveyard, and she had a daughter and a husband, and she doesn't anymore. She meets this man who is putting his mother's ashes on somebody he has never heard of's grave because that was her request. They together start figuring out the story of why that was what the mother wanted. She writes down all of the like eulogies and all the other, so she has all these records from people's funerals and stuff, and that's kind of how they get together figuring stuff out. They also realize that like the mother and her stories start to intertwine, and then there's a lot of stories in this story. There's a lot of storylines. There's also an underlying mystery of what happened to her daughter. So her daughter ended up passing away basically at this like chateau sleepaway camp thing. And that sort of destroyed their marriage and a bunch of other stuff. And there's always been some sort of mystery around how what happened. And so throughout the book, while there's trying to figure out all this stuff with this guy's mom and all these other things, you get all this whole other subplot of her figuring out what's happening with her daughter. And it is a very interesting story, but there's just so much going on sometimes that I felt like I came out of the story too much because I was like, wait, which storyline are we in now?
Oh,
okay. Okay. Because like there's, the one with the daughter was more interesting to me than the one with the mother. So sometimes I'd check out a little bit. But there's a lot of discussion. Well, I don't know why grief is such a heavy topic, but like this month, but there's a lot of discussion about like grief and losing loved ones and the secrets we keep from each other. And obviously she sees a lot of things being in the graveyard and seeing funerals and like all kinds of, it's a very interesting story. You'd like it a lot, I think.
Okay. I've got my eye out. You know that. I've got my eye out for it. So
I know. And I did
can look up. You found another copy.
I found another copy. I was going to order my mom one from Amazon, and then I just happened to go to the Book Barn in my supermarket sweeps of Book Barn buying, and it
And
was just there, and I
boom,
was like,
right
yes,
there.
for my mom. So I will
Yeah.
keep this dog eaten book.
Oh, mercy.
Do you want me to do more?
How many more do you have?
2.
Okay, I can do. Oh yeah, you do one, then I'll do my last, and then you do your last.
If that's what you want to do. I finally read Miyako Kawakami's All the Lovers in the Night. And I still really love her writing, but I told you when I was reading this is not my favorite of the 3 that I have read. This is not my favorite. I think Breast and Eggs in Heaven were just, they were in a different league. But like this was really good. I sometimes really liked, I can't remember her name, like the her coworker who was like very outspoken. So you have this woman who
The
really
one that
likes to
got
like,
her the job of the.
yeah, so this woman really likes to copy edit. She's a little strange. She's a little different. I don't
Yep.
know like why that's a story that I like. But she's a little strange, a little different. She's not like everybody else. She's a little kooky. And she figures out that she can freelance, do her job for other people, for like different companies, and she doesn't have to go into an office because she doesn't seem to get on with anybody at the office.
Right.
It's very weird for her. And she just kind of she likes reading all these documents and marking them up and correcting them. And she lives on for that, but not for anything else. And she has this friend, coworker person who is like vivacious and outgoing and sexually promiscuous and rich and all these things.
Right.
And she gets her this freelance job, and that allows her to stay home. In the beginning, our main character doesn't do like anything bad. She's like really square. And then I can't remember what happens to set her off, but something sets her off. And then we spiral into a world of just drunkenness. But she meets a man and they build this relationship, sort of.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how to describe from there. Like,
yeah. It is a very
it's difficult for me to describe it without like ruining the book.
I mean, it's, I think sadness, loneliness, and isolation, are heavy in this book. For me, Breast and Eggs is still number 1, but that book knocked Heaven down a notch. That's a number
Breast
2
and
book
Eggs
for me.
Heaven. Yes. One of the things I liked a lot of the commentary, especially from the friend, about being a woman in business and being a woman in the world. And like, I liked that dynamic where the two characters were like so opposite, but our main character was really, it seemed like not a lot of people liked the other lady whose name I can't remember.
Yeah.
But she didn't have any issues with her because like she was just so far out, I guess, of whatever normal social interactions. Just none of the things that would annoy a normal person would annoy her because she just like exists in the world, being sad and lonely. And it's kind of tragic.
It's very tragic. There's
like,
no kind of
I feel
about
like
it.
Her
it's
books
very
aren't like
tragic.
Happy.
They're not. Maybe that's why we like her so much. We need to reevaluate who we are as people, Alyssa. We need to reevaluate who we are.
Almost, I don't think I read one happy like, what book in this pile was happy? Not one book in this pile was happy. Are we shocked? No. But obviously, I mean, I flagged it all into Jesus. There's a lot of things in here.
Yeah.
She is just such an amazing writer. The way that she puts,
my God,
it's so good. She's so good.
She's so good. Now, that was my anticipated read for this year. I pre-ordered it, and I'm not a pre-order girl. You know this about me.
I pre-ordered it too,
but I pre-ordered that one.
You don't.
But what I had not paid attention to when I was, when she first announced the book or whatever, and then I didn't pay attention to the page number, the page count. I thought it was a full-length novel.
That small. Yeah.
So when it was delivered, I was like, oh, I'm gonna want more, and I did. Like I want more.
I always love her writing, but
yeah.
I mean, Breast and Eggs was just so phenomenal.
It was. It's still number 1. But All the Lovers in Night for me is number 2.
Don't own it. I'm still mad that you put that back.
I thought you owned it. And I'm pissed. So she's talking about, I went to a library book sale a couple of months ago, and there was a copy there of Breast and Eggs, which is like unheard of. I never see this book in a thrift store, at a library book sale, at McKay. I never see it. And I thought she already owned it, so I didn't get it. And she actually doesn't own it. I'm mad too now.
Yeah,
I'm mad
it's
too
okay.
now.
Maybe one day I'll find it at the book bar.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
What's your last one? I have a guess.
You
Is
already
it
know.
is it 4 books?
It's 4 books. Oh my God. I am
Does
like,
it have an ugly Laura Ashley child on
it
the
has an
front cover of the first
amazing
book?
Laura Ashley child on the cover of the first book. It's 3 little girls. All right. My last 4 books is a series. It's the Neapolitan Quartet by Elena Ferrante. Book 1 is My Brilliant Friend. Book 2 is The Story of a New Name. Book 3 is Those Who Leave and Those Who Stay. And the final book is The Story of the Lost Child. Okay, so I read My Brilliant Friend last year, but it was earlier in the year and I wanted to read it again. So I read it again, and then I just devoured the next 3 books in this quartet. I just, this is a phenomenal series. Okay, now let me say
Joy.
something. Let me
If you're
say
watching the
something.
video, the joy on her face.
Now, I don't know if you know this, Alyssa, but there's some folks out here that do not like this series. Okay, they just trash
I
talk
know.
it. They just trash talk it, and I'm here to tell you, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. This quartet is amazing. It's phenomenal. Should be modern classic. That's what I'm gonna say. I enjoyed every single page of every single book in this quartet. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Every single page of every single book. What, these books range from 400 to 500 pages? Every single book, every single page. Okay? I'm only going to talk about a little bit of My Brilliant Friend because obviously I don't want to spoil the rest of the books for you. But with My Brilliant Friend, okay, so this quartet really follows like a decades long friendship between Elena and Lilu. And I don't think I've ever read anything where we're like following a friendship for so many years. And not that I can remember. I think this is the first time I've read something so deep in a friendship before, which was kind of nice. But it was a very, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe this friendship. Like there's love there, there's admiration there, but there's also, jealousy and insecurity. And I wanna nail down and talk about this one particular scene in the first book, My Brilliant Friend, because it is this scene here that really sets the foundation for their entire friendship. Okay. So in book 1, Elena and Leela, they meet in first grade, okay? And they're in class. And the thing with where they are in Naples, their surroundings, everything is pretty violent. Kids fight each other. They've got the neighborhood bullies. They've got, the neighborhood henchmen. Women are fighting each other. Men beat their wives. Men abuse their children. There's just a lot of violence everywhere. It's just a very violent way of living every day. And so for Elena, school is a very safe place. It's where she gets to shine. She loves to please her teacher. She loves being praised by her teacher. She's smart. You know what I mean? She feels like this is really her place of safety. And so Leela, she's fascinated with her because she's a bad girl.
Wow.
And for some reason, that's very like attractive to her. But she thinks that she's the smartest one in the class. So there's a particular scene where the teacher calls in Leela's mother to come to the class. And Elena's like, well, are we going to teach the mom now? Like, is she part of the class now? Like, what's happening? So the teacher asks Leela to read this word. And Elena's confused because, well, we're in first grade. We don't know how to read. But Leela reads the word. And the teacher's like, good job. That is correct. She says, come to the board. Write the word chalk. And she writes the word chalk, but she's missing the L. And so one of the other students says, oh, no, you got it wrong. And the teacher says, well, no. She knows the word. She can read and she can write. And she turns to the mother. She says, did you teach her? And the mother's like, well, no, it wasn't me. And there's so much shame that the mother feels in this moment because she doesn't even know that her child can read and write. No, it wasn't me. And the teacher says, well, someone in the building? Mother's like, I don't know. So she asked the girl, she asked Lila, well, who taught you? And she says, me.
Oh.
She says, me. So according to her brother, around the age of 3, because she used to sit next to him while he was doing his homework, she taught herself how to read and write. And it was in that moment in that classroom where Elena all of a sudden felt like her world just kind of crumbled. She was no longer the smartest one in the class, where she thought Lita was just this little bad girl, but in fact, she could already read and write. And on top of that, she taught herself. And that feeling of insecurity and being less than, and also trying to keep up with her, this was the basis of their entire friendship. Almost like they're just constantly trying to recalibrate their friendship. You know, Elena trying to chase the knowledge that Leela has. Leela at some points encouraging Elena to continue with school. It was so interesting and so engaging with this friendship. I devoured it up. I loved every minute of it. I highly recommend it. Although those haters out there would like to tell you that it's trash, I'm here to tell you that it's fantastic.
I have no opinion. I do own the books because of you. And at some point I will weigh in on this.
I loved it. I'm not even going to lie to you. I want to reread this entire quartet right now.
Okay. How many times has she said, I don't reread books? I just don't get like the people that reread books. Like, I'm not a rereader.
No, I'm trying to figure out how to reread on a regular basis. That's what I'm trying to figure out. How do they do? I want to do that. I want, like, whenever I get the inkling to reread, I want to just do it.
Well, you pick up the book.
But it doesn't work out all the time.
You read the book.
But I want to reread this right now. I just want to read it again. I love it so much. It's so good. And yes, I did watch part of the adaptation. I watched.
You like the adaptation?
So, well, first of all, let me just say the casting is really on point. Seriously.
Okay.
It is shot and directed beautifully. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there are those moments where I'm like, well, why did they leave that out? And now I'm just questioning those choices of what they decided to put in and what they decided to keep out.
But always has to get left out.
Yeah, but I'm gonna keep watching it because I mean it is really beautiful. I mean, the direction of it is just astounding, and the cast to me is perfection. So I will keep watching.
Okay, so you don't hate it.
I don't hate it.
Okay. So my last one is The Eighth Life by Nina. That's as far as I'm going because I can't say her last name. This is translated either from Georgian or German. I can never figure it out if she wrote it in Georgian or German.
I know.
But this is a sweeping epic, mostly following the women in a family from the Russian Revolution to like, how far ago do they go? The 80s?
Yes.
I think that's as far up as they go. And it's this one woman telling the entire story to Rilke. And you don't really quite fit Rilke into the story until a little way in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't miss that, right? Yeah, we didn't get who Rilke is. And it is an insane, epic journey. With this family, it's tragic. It is uplifting. I will tell you, the end had me like that very end scene where like they're in that crowd and they spot each other, and like I was expecting something else, and I was waiting to just. I'm glad that didn't happen. Basically, but it's I don't know how to describe this. It is it takes you through so much history, and history from the point of view of people that here we don't hear a lot of history from, if that makes sense. We get a lot from German, Russian, general Western Europe. Western Europe history. We don't get a lot of things from the Eastern side of things. So this is a very different, for readers like me, look at history you might be like modern history that you might be familiar with. And I actually really loved most of the women, even like the bad women in this family. Like I just feel like these women really tried their darndest to keep
Absolutely.
everything going. And the ones who couldn't just met like absolutely tragic ends. And it's,
Yeah.
don't be scared. It's to date, I think the biggest book I've ever read, but it felt so fast.
It was fast, and the way the author wrote that book, you
Mm-hmm.
really are engaged
Mm-hmm.
and fairly entertained all the way through. Like, I didn't have any moments where I was kind of like, oh, I'm out of it for a while. I was in it.
Me either.
I
It
was
was
in it from
very,
beginning
very
to end.
interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting family. Very, very interesting way to look at historical events.
Mm-hmm.
And things that like I don't know anything about. Like I don't know a lot about Georgian history. I don't know
Right.
anything about Georgian history.
Right.
So it was really
Yeah. It is.
phenomenal.
It's a fantastic book.
Please read it.
I need my own copy. You have yours. I need my own copy because I got it from the library last year.
I do have my own
And
copy.
and since I read it last year, I have yet to see it at McKay or the thrift stores. So you know what that means. If I don't see it by November 30th or November 31st, I'm just going to order it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. Well, we gave y'all some books, didn't we?
We always give you some books. Have we ever had? We never give you like 3 recommendations. We were planning today for another podcast episode, and I was like, "So how many books do you want me to pull?" And she's like, "I don't know, 20."
And I was like, "Is that too much?" She was like, "Yes."
Yes.
Oh man, I love Women in Translation Month. I love it.
I do
so
too.
much. So
I think I had overall like a better reading month last year. Like I think I liked everything overall more, but the things I really liked this year, I really liked them.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm glad that I read The Eighth Life. It's been sitting there waiting for me to read it. So
yeah, I'm glad you read it and you liked it. I was pretty confident.
I was nervous. I was nervous.
You thought it was gonna be trash.
Sweeping epic family drama. Like I could sometimes fall asleep, or sometimes it's phenomenal. Like
yeah,
it all depends.
I'm interested in her new book that's coming out. It's not as large, it's not as big. It's like I think it's under 350 pages, but I am interested in reading it.
I'll read it.
Yeah, I think it's called My Twin Soul or something like that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Maybe this is going to be a new favorite author because she knocked my socks off with The Eighth Life.
It was really good. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
Right. Is
All
it
right.
book recommendation time?
It is book recommendation time.
You want to pick a number between 1 and 5, Naomi?
We only recommend one at the end of the show.
I know. Pick a number between 1 and 5. Just pick a number.
3.
I didn't ask you to do it. Thank you.
Oh!
I have them in a stack, and I couldn't. All I did was ask you to pick a number, and you're already like,
we're playing a game.
1.
We're playing a game. I get it. Okay, I was helping her decide.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have a stack of books here. You tell me. So I have Disgraced by Brittany Cherry. I think this is interesting that you picked the romance novel without knowing it. So this is a romance novel, obviously, and it is a post-divorce, being an adult, small-town romance novel.
Yes,
and I
please.
absolutely loved this because at some point when you're an old lady, you are tired of reading about like young 20-something ingenues getting like some billionaire. Like it's great, but like I'm old now. That fantasy is not going to work. Like I have baggage. I have a life history. I have things that I'm dealing with. So this was just really, really, really good. And like, so you watch her come to grips with being divorced. You watch her fall in love with this guy, and it's smutty and it's great. And I need to read more. Brittany Cherry, this was so good.
That
I love
sounds
this.
Delightful.
I don't really need to say I always feel like you don't really need to say a lot in romance. Like Jackson Emery's lovely. He's sexy. I like it.
Ooh, I've never seen this author name before.
Because you don't read any romance.
I know. I was just thinking about this the other day, right? I was just thinking about how how clueless I am to the romance genre. Like I don't know author names. I don't know what do you call it? I don't know romance subgenres.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I get in a rabbit hole of the romance people and I'm like, what the F is a bully romance?
Romance,
Like it is so deep.
romance is its own creature,
It
and
really is.
it funds most of publishing. It really does.
I
Romance is
believe it.
huge. And there is a spectrum, and it's a very fascinating, like little, not little, but giant section
Yeah.
of literature. And yeah, romance is a very curious beast.
Well, I tried to have a summer romance books, but it didn't happen the way I thought it was. But I'm still reading them. I'm reading the
I
Beverly
think you
Jenkins
should
right
read that.
now.
I think you would enjoy this
That sounds like
as
I would.
yeah, and he's like he's the stain on our perfect town, and you're gonna have a
Ooh, yum yum.
anyway. So it's good.
All right. I
I
am
don't
going.
think this is the cover though. That this is a. I think this is a Hello Lovely box special cover, so
Oh,
it might
okay.
look different.
Okay. Don't let me forget that, please. I am going to recommend a book that I just finished last week, and that is Lessons by Ian McEwan. This is his
You love
upcoming
that.
novel. It comes out. I'll tell you in a minute.
I love
So
the cover for that.
the cover is beautiful. So this is coming out from Knopf. Now, in their first round of emails, I passed on this book because you know that I read Atonement, and I didn't hate it, but it was very like it was just okay for me. So, but then I kept reading bits and pieces of the synopsis of Lessons, and I was like, but it does sound good. So then when they sent their like last chance email, I went ahead and just checked the box on Lessons, and I was lucky enough
Meanwhile, I skipped
to
it
get it.
twice.
Oh well, okay,
It's okay.
all
I
right.
think I have the audiobook.
Oh yes, I think that is one of the Libro picks, which I realized after I finished the book. So maybe I'll listen to it like as a reread or something like that. So we're following the life of Roland Bain. And we open it in the beginning. Okay, yes, this comes out September 13th. So that's this episode will be out.
Tuesday
This book will be out when this episode
airs.
Airs. Thank you. So we're following the life of Roland Bain.
We speak English good.
Yes, sometimes Roland Bain, and we open the story with a flashback or a memory rather of him in boarding school having a piano lesson, and then we cut to present day in this book where his wife has left. She left a postcard, motherhood, being a wife, too much for her, not what she really
What a way
signed
to
up
leave.
for, right?
Postcard?
Yeah,
Wow.
well, a letter. Not really what she thought it was going to be. She's out. Okay, goodbye. Don't try to find me. That's what she says. And so throughout this book, what I also liked about it was it also tackles, or not tackles, but like it's also talking about world events that are happening, World War II, Cuban Missile Crisis, and how those events like shape, his thoughts or the dialogue that he's having with other people or other characters in the book. And I realized that the going back and forth of his recounts of being in boarding school are really showing us how those experiences have like shaped his life coming into adulthood. When he was in boarding school and having these piano lessons, he had a very inappropriate relationship with his piano teacher. And you can see how that really has stayed with him and has kind of like formed his thoughts and opinions on relationships and love. Yeah. And so like everything really does connect, but you're dealing with a man who really wanted to be married, really wanted to be a dad, but this wife is now gone. And so he's kind of stuck. She's saying don't find me, but they've got this child together and he wants her to come back. And he doesn't really want to divorce her, but she's pretty adamant about not coming back into this marriage. He's sending him postcards here and there, kind of like giving him updates on where she is, where she's going, what she's doing, but also just making it clear like she's not coming back. And so he's raising this child alone. And in the meanwhile, like all these other events in the world are happening. And so you're seeing that how he's dealing with world events and how he's dealing with being a single dad and how he's dealing with being a husband that's been left by his wife. And you're seeing him kind of move through his career, trying to find his way. It was so interesting and also so engaging. And also this book felt very cozy to me. Like there was a moment where I just realized I've been reading this book for like 5 hours straight and I don't want to stop. I mean, it was that cozy. Like my last sitting of finishing this book, I read it for 9 hours straight. I was in it to win it.
That is a way to sell a book.
Yeah,
I was stop for 9 hours.
It was 9 hours. I was in this book. You ever read a book and it's just so good, and you say to yourself out loud, "I am really enjoying this book." I really said that in my little reading chair with my little blankie on, reading this book. I really enjoyed it, and you deal with him finding love again, a late love, grief. The son is also dealing with, does he want to talk to his mother? Does he want to try to find her? Does he want to forgive her? So there's lots of things happening in this book, but I think it was very well written. Again, the world loves atonement. Didn't it get an award or something? Whatever. I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine, but Lessons was the book for me. This was the book for me.
All right,
you heard highly recommend it.
You heard it here. Read Lessons.
Read Lessons. Out from Knopf on September 13th. Beautiful cover.
It is a really beautiful cover.
Yeah. So good. All right. Well,
that's one in the bag, Naomi.
One in the bag. This was a long episode.
They're always long episodes. Why are we always surprised when they're an hour and a half long?
I know. No,
it's because you say things to me like 20 books. Let's talk about 20 books.
I don't know if she's talking about people.
I was literally like muttering and like taking books off my shelves going, this girl's crazy. She's crazy. Crazy. This woman's crazy. 20 books. Nobody wants to listen to 20 books.
They want all the book recommendations. So, there you are. There you have it. So, this was a great episode. I enjoyed it.
It was.
Read all the books. What did you read from Word Translation? People, let us know in the comments.
Please do. And if you enjoyed this, please remember to review it. Leave a like if you're watching the video. All that fun stuff.
Yes. And subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Click that subscribe button.
That's it, right? Is that where we're done?
Yeah, that's it. I need to pour a coffee before we go on for episode.
I need a coffee and a snack.
Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. All right, folks, we're out of here. That'll do it. Bye.
Bye.